one myth that I'm challenging right out of the gate is, money doesn't buy you happiness. Money is a really important ingredient for a lot of things that you're going to probably want to experience in life. Money allows that journey because, again, life isn't about a destination, it's your journey. Life's an Ironman. We're in an Ironman. This thing called life is a long race. It is not a sprint. Well, the one thing I learned as an entrepreneur is the road always continues. It might not feel like it. It might feel very dark, but I'm just here to tell you it continues on. Get up early and get it done. That's a lifelong habit that I think folks could really benefit for their health, their wealth, their prosperity, everything. Clean your closet, organize your home in a way that gives you energy. Those things will add so much more to your own mental health versus a pill and you're hoping that's going to biohack some gloss over the basic. It doesn't do it. Comparison is what they say, the thief of all joy. But I would look at others and I'd say, well, if they can do it, why can't I?
You've journeyed from investment banking to pioneering financial longevity. Could you tell us about the pivotal moment when you knew it was time to shift gears?
Boy, you caught me there, David, on that question. The pivotal, I tell you, what I would say is the pivotal time that I reckon. I went to law school after starting my career on Wall Street. I went to law school, and I remember sitting down with a friend of mine, telling him what I wanted to do. And it kind of had this blend of investment banking with being a lawyer and how I envisioned my future to be. And I recall then several years later when I had a partner and we had this unique practice where we were advising clients on their legal and financial needs and matters. And I sat back and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the exact conversation I had described with my buddy Josh sitting, on that little couch at law school, And so I'd say that was a pivotal moment in, I'll call it just my journey as an entrepreneur, which is to recognize that if I really put my mind to something, if I focused on it and I took the steps necessary, don't be surprised that you will get what you wish for.
I like that. And you have worn multiple hats, from entrepreneur, CEO, endurance athlete, and author. What's been your favorite identity and why?
I'm really bad with favorites. So people will ask me what my favorite movie is, what my favorite song is, although I have narrowed it. And I think that goes to it. I don't know that I have a favorite me. What the favorite me is sort of the amalgamation of all of those things and how they combine to be my authentic me. As you say, I've pushed myself in various areas. I've done ultra endurance events. I've done a lot in entrepreneurial and taking companies public and building organizations. And I built a wonderful family that I'm immensely proud of. And all of those things combine to make me who I am today. And so I can't pick one of those identities. It's always shifting, almost to your original point. Those gears are shifting depending on the stage I'm at in life. So I'm open-minded on how I need to shift gears. I'm aware of the necessity to shift. For example, I don't do that ultra stuff like I used to. I'm 58, chronologically 58 years old. And so I've chosen to back off on some of those things and emphasize other gears in my own health and wellness, for example.
And I guess a lot of them are also similar. There's a lot of crossover. So for example, I think the mindset that an athlete has is very similar to the mindset an entrepreneur has. Even if the application is different, there's still that crossover. Would you agree there?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing observation. And it's one I came to on my own. I think it wasn't by design, but it's something I figured out. Again, I'd never done a triathlon. In fact, I started running when I had our firstborn child, and it wasn't a runner, and I started running because I'm like, I got to do something. So I started running, and I ran there, and we ran a little farther and a little farther, and then I wasn't a swimmer, and I learned how to swim, and so then I ended up doing triathlons, and then Ironmans, and then ultra trail runs. And so what I learned through that process, and I think this is the big takeaway, is that those environments are I'll call them controlled environments to test your self-limiting beliefs. I can't run a 5K. I can't run a 10K. There's no way I could complete an Ironman. How could you possibly do this? These are controlled environments in which you can test that belief, because that is a self-limiting belief. Everyone on this podcast, I was always amazed at these Ironman events. They have what's called the midnight finishers. So Ironman officially ends at midnight. Like if you don't cross the finish line by midnight, that's it, you're out. Even if you're 100 yards out from the finish line, you've been working 14 hours all day, but you're done. So you watch what we call the midnight film. Everyone comes back out at midnight to cheer on these last people to get across the finish line before midnight. And it's really inspiring. But you see these bodies, and I don't mean that in a negative, but you would look at it, you'd be like, how could they do this? And they do this. And all I'm suggesting is we all have self-limiting beliefs. And it's really as what all of our individual challenges to get over those self-limiting beliefs, and these exercise or these environments provide a way in which to test that. Because the one thing I learned as an entrepreneur is the road always continues. It might not feel like it. It might feel very dark. You might not, how could this possibly work out? But I'm just here to tell you, it continues on. And that's a way in which to build up some of that muscle memory that you can learn that about yourself and the environment in which you live.
Your venture, Longevity Financial Partners, brings health longevity into financial planning. How exactly does one's longevity profile change their financial strategy?
Your longevity profile is everything about your financial strategy. It's everything. The thing you're going to do as a 30 or 40-year-old is completely different than what you're going to do as 70, 80, or 90-year-old. So it's everything. And yet the industry, what I realized through, again, my career was the industry doesn't speak to it. It has no vocabulary for it. It doesn't, and that's the thing we care about the most, really, which is our own lives and our lifestyles, and how our lifestyle and our lives bring what we want into it, right? And that's the good things. We want the good thing, more of the good things and less of the bad things. And so how can we create that environment in which to do it? And what role does money play in that, right? And so that's the point. And then, so talking about what that experience looks like first, and then talking about the role of money and the financial product and the strategy we then employ given the real things that we want.
What myths about retirement planning are you challenging head on?
I would say one myth that I'm challenging right out of the gate is, money doesn't buy you happiness. I think that's a huge effing myth that was somehow created somewhere along the line that sort of said, it's okay. By the way, I'm not judging, you can get by with whatever amount of money you want. That's fine. But just realize that, money is a really important ingredient for a lot of things that you're going to probably want to experience in life. And I'm speaking to the majority of us, like there's the freegans who can live in the woods on a can of beans. And there's the people who I'm just like a normal person. I want to be engaged. I like having a house. I want a car. I'd like to do stuff. I want to take a trip. Money allows that journey. It enables the journey, because again, life isn't about a destination. It's your journey. And so that's a myth that I want to bust open. But I wrote a book called Healthy, Wealthy Longevity, and it's not about financial wealth, but what is wealth. But it's this idea. In the research I did a lot of all these happiness books. And all the happiness books are blah, 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 happy, 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 happy. Choose a good job, but happy, happy, happy. Well, fucking money. I mean, and then by the way, then Oprah would chime in and tell me something about some experience. I'm like, girl, you're a billionaire. Okay, come on. Stop. And so I really want to encourage people to think hard about prosperity, how to achieve prosperity to the level that they set for themselves, so that they can have whatever they want, bring whatever they want into their life. So money plays an important role, obviously, in reducing stress and creating opportunities and general freedom. Research around retirement planning suggests in the United States, you need $1.5 million, so to speak, at retirement. That seems like an awful large sum. And so how do you make sure you have that amount, and is that the right amount? But that's what, according to the research, best research from insurance companies suggests.
Sorry, I think it was $80,000 a year, I think, is meant to be the cutoff at which past that happiness doesn't increase so much. So if you from 0 upwards to 80, you get less stressed because your basic needs are taken care of. And once those basic needs plus a bit are taken care of, it's not so much different between 80 and hundreds of thousands or millions. Would you agree with that, John? Or would you say it is still exponentially the more money you have, the happier you could be?
Yeah, what you're citing is sort of the original research on I believe, sort of the connection that there's a marginal increase between your happiness and the amount you earn. And they cited sort of a top off at around $75,000 per annum. There's been additional research done since then. That is pretty old research. And the additional new research suggests that actually, no, it keeps going. So, in other words, your overall happiness and sense of fulfillment continues to increase upwards, certainly into maybe like around $250,000 a year. And then you start to see some flattening of that. So that's sort of more current research that I think is, at least in my perspective, is I think it's inspirational and aspirational. You know, it's an incredible, at least in the United States, we live in just an incredible uh, economic time and opportunity for folks, even though it seems hard and even though the deck can seem stacked against you. There's really a lot of opportunity for folks to earn whatever it is they want and, you know, build the life of their dreams.
How does Ironman training experience, or how does Ironman training help you prepare for the entrepreneurial highs and lows? You mentioned a little bit about the resilience there, but could you maybe expand on one or 2 points?
Yeah, Ironman training. I used to get a question a lot from my friends. Would say, "Well, what do you train? What race are you training for next?" And my response, I was always say, is always the answer was, "I'm training for life." You know, life's an Ironman. You know, we're in an Ironman. This thing called life is a long race. It is not a sprint. And so I think personally, the Ironman training and longer distance training gives you enough room to experience this resilience muscle where you're just kind of like, I don't know, that seems really far. And yet you somehow figure out to keep going, to keep moving through the hard times and periods. So I think that's the biggest thing you could get. The other thing that it taught me to do was get up early, you know, and like get up early and get it done. And I've been a early bird and early riser for decades now, and I think that's a lifelong habit that I think folks could really benefit for their health, their wealth, their prosperity, everything. Early morning is a good thing.
Putting yourself back in the shoes of your early Ironman days when you were thinking that it was really far, really hard. How am I going to do this? What got you over that hump? Was it just one foot in front of the other?
Some days it was just that, put one foot in front of you. Just so that's a basic skill you need to learn. I'm going to keep my head down and keep putting one foot in front of the other thing too, is just, again, I write about this, which is sort of this notion of comparison. You know, comparison is what they say, what the thief of all joy. But I would look at others and I'd say, well, if they can do it, why can't I've thought a lot about that in business and a lot about the things that, you know, I've achieved in life, where if they can do it, why can't I? And so I'm gonna put one foot in front of the other. I'm not going to stop. I'm gonna figure out why. If not, why not? Um, I'd say that's a big one.
Some of the advice that you give to people is that they need to find their niche or find something that works for them and then work like hell. I think that's the quote there. How does that balance with also thinking about longevity and health and maybe not overstressing or burning out, but also needing to work hard in order to get that edge? Where do you see that balance?
Yeah, I don't agree with this notion of, call it, work-life balance. I mean, I think if your work is part of life, life is work. That's not to say you can't relax and have downtime, but I have a monkey brain, so I'm always thinking about my work. I'm always thinking about something. And I think finding, you know, integrating your work into your life in a way that's symbiotic, that it's all, I think every aspect of your life should be compounding. Your health should be compounding. Your prosperity should be compounding. And that has to, you know, you're taking, how do you swallow the whale? One bite at a time. And so taking, you know, little bites out of each one of those areas of your life all the time is a great way to, you know, build.
So not sacrificing one for another, but doing it all in balance.
That's right. Yeah, I find, and others have written about this, which is I get tremendous amounts of energy from my work sometimes that just make me want to go. And at the same time, when I'm running or I'm doing some exercise, I find lots of insights. That's where some of that insight comes on my business. So, if you were to look over here, I've got my weights and my workout. Like, I live in an environment where I'm just bouncing back and forth between work and exercise, and so that's how and that's some advice that I write about, and I get that from the folks at Blue Zones and Dan Buettner, which is create an environment locally, physically, work on your environment that fosters that, so it just makes it easier, and it makes it fun and symbiotic, and you get energy from each one of those. None of those should be sucking energy. They should each be providing energy. And that's that compounding effect that I'm speaking to.
Do you subscribe to any of the biohacking kind of research with like pills that you can take to get you more energy or reduce what is it, the zombie cells or whatever that are roaming around your body?
Cellular senescence, yeah, senescent cells are your zombie cells. I'm not a big biohacker. I don't subscribe to a lot of the biohacking. I'm very conscious of what I put into my body and what I eat. And I do supplement a little bit on some protein, so trying to make sure I get enough protein. I'm 58 years of age, as I indicated, and so as we age, right, we're losing muscle mass, and so this is a reality of aging. So I'm really working hard with enough protein to sustain, if you will, my muscular and skeletal structure. So I'm thinking about things that way. But beyond that, no, I'm not. I believe personally, and by the way, this goes to my Ironman training. I never had a Strava or a watt meter or all these things. There's all these things you could really get yourself wound around the axle. By the way, if you like to do that and that motivates you and you gamify it for yourself, amazing. But for me, it didn't. I just like being outside. I like having fun and being in the fresh air. And so what I like to say is, it's the 20%, it's the 80-20 rule. Like, if you can get the good things, the basic things right, eating really well, living this balanced life, if you do those things right, like, the supplements aren't going to make that big of if you did get those wrong and you do all the supplements, then, you've lost the battle. So that's how I play the game of Jon, so to speak, which is I work on getting the basics really good, and I don't worry about the ankle biting.
I like that perspective. I think if you're enjoying your life, that's going to trump any pill that you take.
It's that thing of you can't outrun a bad diet. You also can't outrun a bad diet and bad sleep, and you can't outsleep not exercising, right? It's getting all of that largely right. You might have the odd night's sleep that you don't get a lot, David. Or you might have the odd day where you're not eating right or you're not exercising. But if most of the time you're good, then you're good.
Get the basics really good. Like, get those things really dialed in before you start looking for the pills and the hacks. Like, get your basics, integrate, clean your closet, organize your home in a way that gives you energy and makes you happy. Clean out those drawers, clean out the weeds. Trust me, those things will add so much more to your own mental health and feeling good about who you are, versus a pill and you're hoping that's going to biohack and sort of gloss over the basic. It doesn't do it. It doesn't work.
So you've offered the book behind you, Healthy, Wealthy, Longevity. What's one simple yet powerful principle from your book that anyone can apply immediately to improve their life?
Think critically about your environment in which you're spending. A lot of us work from home. Make the healthier or better choice easier for yourself. If your pantry's stocked full of sugary, salty, sweety goodness, you can't, and there's no fruits or vegetables. You're like, how can you fault yourself for, going back? I do it. I've had arguments with my wife over a pint of ice cream or Oreo cookies being in the cupboard. I love it. If they're there, that's it. I'll eat the whole quart or eat the whole pack. So what I would encourage folks is take inventory, clean that stuff up so you can make the healthier choice the easier choice. Put your running shoes in front or your walking shoes in front of the door. Get that bike dusted off and cleaned and set it right there so you see it. Get your backpack organized with your stuff in it so you pick it up and you go walk. Like those things will really help you get into the habits. So you want to start to develop these habits, and you got to make those easier and more accessible to you. Because I'm like everyone else. Like I go to my default, and if I got to make those better choices easier.
What's your sleep schedule like? Do you have a routine?
My sleep schedule for years has sort of been, and I believe in this one. If I'm tired, I go to sleep. If my mind wants to wake up, I wake up. And so I don't like to pay attention to the clock. It's sort of like even clock time. And we talked about chronological aging. Yes, I'm 58 biologically. I think I'm 48, or at least the epigenetic clock says that. So I pay attention to my internal clock. What does my internal clock want to do? Again, this just goes into just get in touch with yourself. For me, we mentioned at the outset, I have the fortunate, I'm living down on the Baja right now, and I wake with the sun or before the sun, usually before the sun. I like getting up when it's dark and it's quiet, and I love that time. I look at the stars, and I'm kind of getting my constellations down. I watch the sunrise. I work on things, and then we call it Baja midnight because by the time the sun goes down, it's kind of like you get tired and you want to go to sleep. So that's that they call that a circadian rhythm or whatever. Again, I don't intentionally go for that, but it works for me. And I guess I would say is whatever works for you, but be sure you get enough rest. But if my body wakes up at 3 and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for the day." I love the 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. That 3 hours, I can get so much work done. I have my coffee. It's quiet. It's dark. No one's bugging me. No emails. No texts. And so that's a little bit about my schedule.
So going back to kind of biohacking, sleeping, things like that. When it comes to needing to be an entrepreneur, and sometimes meaning that you can't exercise in a day because you're flat out working all the time, or you can't sleep and you want to, your body needs to, but you can't. Again, what would you say the balance is for an entrepreneur that really needs to work hard, but also needs to think of those things? Where would you say, or what's the sign in their body or in their mind that they need to pay attention to?
I'd say the sign is when you really get that tired, kind of overwhelming, you look in the mirror and you see those dark circles and you really feel drained, and you take your cup of coffee and you're like, shit, I got to have another cup of coffee. I don't feel anything. Or I had 4 Mountain Dews today, and I did my biohacking, or not my my code hacking thing for the last 24. That's where you're kind of, that's where you're pushing the boundaries. And so I would suggest take a step back, put your headphones on, take your next few calls or podcasts and just walk. Just get outside and walk. That's You can take your calls on a walk with a headphone. You can listen to a podcast. Listen to David's last podcast. I mentioned at the outset of a show I thought was brilliant. Vance Morris, I thought was brilliant. Listen to some good brain food. I used to call it brain food. So I'd plug in some brain food. I had my own specific brain food that worked for me. I put some brain food on and I would walk or I would bike. And so everyone can take an hour. Okay. Just take an hour and walk. Okay. And that's going to give your body, it'll trigger your body to say it's now ready to rest. So that's a way in which to help get you into that rhythm of some fresh air. My body exerts itself a little bit. It's ready for rest. Even if it's 3 to 6 hours, at least you get that good rest.
And like you said, I think making the habits that you want to do easier and the habits that you don't want to do anymore harder. There was a study with this recently, or in the last few years, where they literally just moved a vending machine from by the door to the other side of the room. You had to walk to the other side of the canteen at a hospital, I think, in the UK, to get to it. And their sales went down by like 30 something percent because I have to walk over there now, so I'll go without. And that's that same thing. It's take the ice cream out of the pantry, right? Take the thing out of ease of grabbing and put something else there that would be the healthier choice. If you really want the ice cream, you can go to the store and get it, but you've got to put in that extra effort to get it.
Yeah, go get a cone. Go to the shop. Go get a single scoop. Go to the yogurt, the frozen yogurt. I like that's that something berry in LA. I love that one. The frozen yogurt. Go to the frozen. Get a single serving. Yeah, get a single serving. Say hi to the clerk. Give them a chat and a smile and a nice little tip, and have your little social interaction right there. Sit down, have your ice cream, then go home and go back. That now you've limited and you've made it more difficult. But if you do it, you got some purpose, some social interaction. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Living life.
Yeah, you got to smile, get a smile off someone. If you can bring a smile to anyone, even throughout the day, that's one of my little daily challenges to myself. Can I get a smile out of someone? And if I can, then that's job well done.
That's a great daily habit to get to.
Let's fast forward 10 years, Jon. How do you envision your impact on the financial industry and the wellness community?
Wow. Fast forward 10 years.
Chronologically.
Yeah. Our time machine. You know, um, I would hope that for the financial services, that healthy aging. I mean, we're at this peak 60-year, peak 65, which is more Americans are turning 65 this year than in any year prior in the history of America. And so my hope would be is that the financial services industry really wakes up and integrates these conversations around what does healthy aging look like and what does the role of money play, and how does financial innovation um, in these coming years, we're in this incredible time of innovation, how does then innovation with products and services make retirement and growing old better? There's so much to do there, and I hope that I've played a meaningful role in both of those things, both in creating new and innovative products that help people as they grow old to make that easier, because it's not, you guys look young, it's not fun and it's not easy to grow old. So if we can make that better, that would be amazing. And if the industry by and large really helps people with the conversation that says, it's really not, as we talked about, sure, money does equate to happiness, some level of happiness, but it's not about money. And so how am I going to help you make sure the money plays this meaningful role in creating a meaningful life, so that at the end of life, you can look back in a place of tranquility and a state of mind to say, my life's been a dream. And if the financial industry, right, can help more people do that, and I've been a part of that, then that would be an incredible goal for me.
I love that line. I have some rapid fire questions for you. What is your morning workout or evening meditation?
I'm going to go in reverse because I don't work out in the mornings anymore. I'll call meditate in the morning. So my meditations are focused on a prompt journal that I designed for myself. It came from Tim Ferriss's podcast many years ago around the 5-minute journal idea. I kind of redesigned my own little one, like a pocket prompt journal, I call it, available on my website. I've handed them out for years and people love these things. So I meditate in the morning. I think about what the priorities of my day are going to be, what I want to achieve. I reflect on yesterday, what amazed me, what could have gone better. And I set my day forward with that intention of what I want to get out of the day. I'm working out in the late afternoons, early evenings, and my workouts at age 58 are focused around strength. I do a lot of weightlifting at least 5 days a week. Again, it's right here next to me, so I don't have a lot of excuses not to get to the gym. Although I love going to the gym, it's a great place to be social and build community. So I love it, but that gym needs to be close. If it's further than 10 minutes away from your house, find a closer gym. And then the reason I'm in Baja is I wanted to become a surfer. I could surf, but I grew up in Minnesota, which is a long way from any ocean and wave. And so my goal before this body really gives out on me is to be somewhat competent in a wave on a surfboard. So that's why I'm here.
What's your favorite mantra when things get tough?
Around the curve, the road continues. So keep moving and be confident that that road is going to continue around that hard curve. That's what I have to remind myself, and that the narrative or the story of Jon has yet to be. I'm in charge of that narrative, and I won't let anyone define the narrative of my life. I'm going to define my narrative, and I'm going to keep working towards that my entire life.
Well, we covered a lot. You mentioned some of the things that you learned from your first Ironman, as well as some financial myths that you would erase or change. Is there anything that we left unsaid, Jon, that you'd like to close with?
No, I'm good. Healthy, wealthy longevity. The book is really designed as scaffolding or a framework to build the life of your dreams. Build these practices and habits, make them easier, that build a healthy and prosperous life.
Great. We'll definitely put that link in the show notes. Is there anywhere else you'd like to point people to follow you or ask you questions or anything like that?
I'm on all the social media platforms, of course. Follow me on any, engage with me on any of those. And yeah, I look forward to working with people and continue to share the message of health, wealth, and prosperity. Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking to us today, Jon. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.